20 signs you are emotionally mature. When we think of someone who's emotionally mature, we typically picture a person who has an understanding of who they are. In other words, emotional maturity is when someone can manage their emotions no matter their conditions. They know how to react to tough circumstances and still keep them relaxed. Recommended The Amazing You Self-Help 1. Holding on to self-righteousness. You realize that most of the bad habits of people really grow down to fear and anxiety rather than nastiness or foolishness. You loosen your hold on self-righteousness and stop thinking of the world as populated by either beasts or fools. It makes things less black and white at first, but in time, a great deal more interesting. 2. Learning not to blame others. You learn that what is in your head can't automatically be recognized by other people. Unfortunately, you will have to articulate your intentions and feelings with the use of words and can't fairly blame others for not getting what you mean until you've conversed confidently and clearly. 3. Realizing your mistakes. You learn that remarkably, you do sometimes get things wrong. With huge courage, you take your first faltering moves towards, once in a while, confessing. 4. Learn to be confident. You learn to be confident not by realizing that you're great, but by learning that everyone else is just as dumb, scared, and lost as you are. We're all making it up as we go along, and that's fine. 5. Learn to forgive your parents. You forgive your parents because you realize that they didn't put you on this earth in order to insult you. They were just painfully out of their depth and struggling with demons of their own. Anger turns at points to pity and compassion. 6. Learning the influence of mood. You learn the enormous influence of so-called small things on mood. Bedtimes, blood sugar, and alcohol levels, degrees of background stress, etc. As a result, you learn never to bring up an important, quarrelsome issue with a loved one until everyone is well rested, no one is drunk, you've had some food, nothing else is alarming you, and you aren't rushing to catch a train. 7. You give up sulking. If someone hurts you, you don't store up the hatred and the hurt for days. You remember you'll be dead soon. You don't expect others to know what's wrong. You tell them straight, and if they get it, you forgive them. And if they don't, in a different way, you forgive them too. 8. Cease to believe in perfection. You cease to believe in perfection in pretty much every area. There aren't any perfect people, perfect jobs, or perfect lives. Instead, you turn towards an appreciation of what is good enough. And believing many things in your life are at once quite frustrating and yet, in many ways, exceptionally good enough. Perfect people don't exist, and every strength will be tagged with a weakness. 9. Become calmer or more patient. You learn the virtues of being a little more pessimistic about how things will turn out, and as a result, emerge as a calmer, more patient, and more forgiving soul. You'll lose some of your idealism and become a far less maddening person, less impatient, less rigid, and less angry. 10. Learn to strengthen others. You'll learn to see that everyone's weaknesses of character are linked to counterbalancing strengths. Rather than isolating their weaknesses, you look at the whole picture. Yes, someone is a bit messy, but at the same time brilliantly creative and very visionary. 11. Difficult to fall in love. When you were less mature, you could develop a crush in an instant. Now, you are poignantly aware that everyone, however externally charming or accomplished, would be a bit of a pain from close-up. You develop loyalty to what you already have. 12. Shedding sentiments towards yourself. You learn that you are rather surprisingly quite a difficult person to live with. You'll shed some of your earlier sentimentality towards yourself. You go into friendships and relationships offering others kindly warnings of how and when you might prove a challenge. 13. You'll learn to forgive yourself. You learn to forgive yourself for your errors and foolishness. You realize the unfruitful self-absorption involved in simply flogging yourself for past misdeeds. You become more of a friend to yourself. Of course, you're an idiot, but you're still a lovable one, as we all are. 14. Compromising with your childishness. You learn that part of what maturity involves is making peace with the stubbornly childlike bits of you that will always remain. You cease trying to be a grown-up on every occasion. You accept that we all have our regressive moments, and when the inner 2 years old, you rear their head, you greet them generously and give them the attention they need. Learn to celebrate little things. You cease to put too much hope in grand plans, for the kind of happiness you expect can last for years. You celebrate the little things that go well. You realize that satisfaction comes in increments of minutes. You're delighted if one day passes by without too much bother. You take a greater interest in flowers and in the evening sky. You develop a taste for small pleasures. 16. Don't care what others think. What people in general think of you ceases to be such a concern. You realize the minds of others are muddled places, and you don't try so hard to polish your image in everyone else's eyes. What counts is that you and one or two others are okay with you being you. You give up on fame and start to rely on love. 17. Getting better at hearing feedback. You get better at hearing feedback, rather than assuming that anyone who criticizes you is either trying to humiliate you or is making a mistake. Try to accept that maybe it would be an idea to take a few things on board. You start to see that you can listen to criticism and survive it without having to put on your armor and deny there was ever a problem. 18. Giving value to life. You'll realize the extent to which you tend to live, day by day, in too great proximity to certain of your problems and issues, and remember more and more that you need to get perspective on things that pain you. You take more walks in nature. You might get a pet, and you appreciate the distant galaxies above us in the night sky. 19. Taking control of your feelings. You recognize how your distinctive past colors your response to events. Also, learn to compensate for the distortions that result. You accept that, because of how your childhood went, you have a tendency to exaggerate in certain areas. You become suspicious of your own first impulses around particular topics. You realize sometimes not to go with your feelings. 20. Better in hearing others. When you start a friendship, you realize that other people don't principally want to know your good news so much as gain an insight into what troubles and worries you, so that they can, in turn, feel less lonely with the pains of their own hearts. You become a better friend because you see that what friendship is really about is sharing vulnerability. Our emotional barometer is a tool to help us more clearly explain our moods. Hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching.